A manager's relationship with employees is often the most challenging part of the job. In an ideal world, you want everyone to like you, and you hope to never have to discipline or terminate an employee. The reality is, not everyone is going to like you, and there will come a time when a staff member needs correction or needs to be terminated. You must remember that your job is to staff the hospital and ensure employees are fulfilling their job requirements. The hospital's needs must come first. Everyone would love Saturdays off, but the hospital is open on Saturday, and the hospital must have staff in order to operate. When dealing with employees, it is imperative that you treat all employees fairly and avoid favoritism. Playing favorites amongst the staff will quickly become obvious to all, and will often have a demoralizing effect. A good manager distinguishes between employee performances, not between employee personalities. So how should your communication vary between employees with differing performances? The key issue is to treat everyone fairly and consistently. You should have the same standards for discipline and the same standards for reward for every employee. This does not mean that the exceptional employee does not get verbal recognition for an outstanding job, and the poorly performing employee does not receive verbal correction for his or her performance. If these same employees perform completely opposite the following week, they should get the same recognition or correction as their counterpart received the week before. Disciplining employees. The most difficult part of employee relations involves disciplining employees. When an incident occurs and an employee has not acted according to hospital standards, review the situation before acting. In some cases, it may be a fault of the system and not the employee. The employee may never have been properly communicated with as to the expectation placed on them. This is why a hospital policy and procedures manual is a standard for every hospital, as well as an established training program. Mistakes will happen, and when they do, deal with them in a professional manner. With any disciplinary action, whether verbal or written, the rules must apply to all employees, or it may be considered playing favorites. Minor incidents, such as misfiling a record or being late, can be dealt with through simple conversation away from others and kept as inconspicuous as possible. Remember that the goal of discipline is to positively shape the individual into the best employee they can possibly be. Making the employee feel stupid or insignificant does little for their development or the betterment of the hospital. It is best to begin by simply stating the error made and asking for an explanation and a solution. Your attitude should be one of concern for the hospital and concern that they are growing in their position in the practice. For more information on the proper counseling and disciplining of employees, please refer to the video titled Hiring and Firing. Personnel records. Another important element of staff management is the maintenance of personnel records. You need to have a file for each current employee, as well as keep past employee records for up to 7 years. There are some state and federal requirements for the retention of personnel records. However, the time periods vary for different file types, such as tax files or payroll files. These laws also vary from state to state, and you should be sure to review these policies in order to better understand the maintenance of personnel records. These files are private, need to be kept secured, and should only be accessed by management and the practice owner. Each personnel file should contain the following: a current W-4 form, I-9 and copies of identification used for verification, a copy of a valid state driver's license, a copy of their Social Security card used for the W-4, any other state or locally required documents, the application or resume with date of hire noted, copies of diplomas, certification documents, and professional licenses, attendance records, any physician notes, return to work orders, duty restrictions, etc., any workplace injury notes, OSHA training documentation, documentation of notable incidents, commendations, thank you letters, and cards from clients if applicable, disciplinary measures, written warnings or verbal warnings, copies of records or actual photographs if needed to document incidents, all employee correspondence, memos, notices and requests to and from the employee, and performance review materials. Here is some additional information that personnel records might include: emergency contact information, receipt of hospital manual, a list of eligible benefits, certificates of attendance for continuing education meetings, payroll information if not kept separately, and vacation time taken and paid. It's also helpful for future reference to note on past employee files the dates of employment, the nature of their resignation or termination, and if they are eligible for rehire.